From the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia, this is Campus Lore Live, presented by Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance. Our special guest this week is Austin Hooper, tight end for the Atlanta Falcons from Stanford University. Austin, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Drew Butler, as always, joined alongside by Aaron Murray. And Aaron, Austin, we're going to start with something top of mind. Number 10, Stanford, the Cardinal, beat a top rival, USC, Southern Cal, the Trojans, for everybody out here on the East Coast. A huge rivalry. KJ Costello and Bryce Love, they get a big victory. What does that game mean to you?
It's huge. I mean, you look at our program's history, one of the biggest college football, or actually the biggest college football upset of all time was Stanford over USC. So, I mean, ever since then, there's been that banter. We get a lot of SoCal kids, so there's always that friction there of guys you played in high school and going up through, various sports and whatnot. So getting the win over USC is huge. That's probably our bigger rival than Cal, even though Cal's our rival. But, they got to be competitive for rivalry, so we'll see.
Absolutely. Aaron, when we were in college, Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, those guys really intensified that rivalry. Austin mentions the biggest upset in college football history. Stanford calling timeout, going for two when they were up by 30-plus points. When things like that happen in college football games, they just don't forget it year to year.
No, you don't forget it. You don't forget games like that. You don't forget when a team's a little unnecessary. We've talked previously about that Auburn game my freshman year. I was a Florida kid, so I was taught when I got to Georgia, you got to hate Florida. You got to hate Florida. All of a sudden after that freshman year at Auburn, and now I just hate Auburn. The way they treated me, their personalities on the football field, what they did off the football field, I was like, I don't care if you completely change that coaching staff, if you completely change the players, I will forever hate Auburn, and they will always be number one, public enemy number one for me going forward. But that's what makes college football special. These little things, everyone has it in them. Whether it's you hate Florida because of this, you hate Stanford because of that, or you hate USC because of this. That's the passion, that's the love, that's the drive from the fan base to the coaches to the players, and that's what makes college football so special.
I think the beauty of it, too, is it's all cyclical, right? USC dominated that rivalry for a little bit. Stanford surely getting some success now. I remember 2007, Georgia scores the first touchdown against Florida. The entire bench rushed the field. Well, in 2008, someone named Tim Tebow leads Florida. I think they were up on us 41-3. We score a late touchdown, so it's 41-10. Our entire side of the stadium empty. If you've ever been to Georgia, Florida, you know what that's like. It's like a bowl game in the middle of the season. But we kick off to Chris Rainey late in the game, Austin. He fakes a kneel down, almost house calls it, right? They're going to go up 48-10. Well, we tackle him, and then what does Urban Meyer do? He calls all three timeouts inside 2 minutes, and they were beating us down. So, USC obviously had their way with Stanford, but the Cardinal get a huge victory. Now they're ranked inside the top 10. Number 9 Cardinal, Bryce Love, KJ O'Connell, looking like they're going to have a good year in the Pac-12. Speaking of the Pac-12, another team that's getting a lot of notoriety after week 2 is Arizona State. The Sun Devils, led by Herm Edwards, a controversial hire earlier in the season, hasn't coached in any football 10-plus years. They grab him off of ESPN. Now he's the head coach at Arizona State. Austin, you're in the NFL right now. Can the NFL model work in college football when you've got to go to class, you've got to go to tutoring, study hall, XYZ?
Well, I think in Herm Edwards' case, it's a little too early to tell 2 weeks in. It's a completely different approach, going from actually having employees and you're the employer to now having, student athletes. So it'll be interesting how he partitions the time, but in terms of the amount of discipline and energy he brings, like you said, 10 years of not coaching. The guy wants to get after it. He wants to coach as hard as he can. That's his love to do. So, that's his passion. So it's a little too early to tell. We'll see how it goes.
Aaron, I'm with Austin here. Are we overreacting after 2 victories? Come on. They got to go through the entire Pac-12.
If Michigan State played better in week 1 and not the close game that they had, then I would say, okay, they beat a really good Michigan State team, but they just haven't looked good. And I was high, I was high in the Big Ten East. This is going to be a great conference this year. They're going to dominate. And that entire conference has looked bad. So, yes, it was a great win. I'm still in the same belief, though. Can he do it for an entire season? And then can he turn around and recruit? I know that's something that's going to be completely different for him going and smoozing with the parents and with the kids and kissing butt. That's going to be a little different. He's not used to that. He's used to drafting the kid. Here's your paycheck. You better go out there and play, or we're going to cut you and you're going to be gone. Now it's, I got to go and convince these kids that ASU is the greatest thing in the world and they need to come here and play football. Can he consistently do that, or does he just want to sit back, be the CEO, and let everyone else do the work?
I can confirm Tempe is a lot of fun. I lived in Arizona for 4 years, so that's certainly a great selling point, but let's pump the brakes, okay? They won 16-13. All right, it was a last-second field goal. Michigan State not having the best start to a season. They got to get through the entire Pac-12. I mean, they even play San Diego State this week. That'll be a tough game for the Sun Devils, so let's keep our eye on Herm Edwards and the Arizona State Sun Devils. A team that escaped with a victory in Week 2, number 2 ranked Clemson Tigers. They went into College Station against Texas A&M, a very hostile environment. Night game, ESPN, College game day, and this one went down to the wire, Austin. I mean, it was fantastic. When you look at a team like Clemson, who has had so much success the past couple of seasons in college football, and then a team like Texas A&M with a new head coach and that kind of revamped energy, did you expect Texas A&M to give them that kind of run? Because I certainly didn't. I thought Clemson would take care of business over 60 minutes.
That's a tough one. I mean, you look at Clemson, that's just a team who's used to be in those high-pressure situations. So that's a team that knows how to win when they got to win. Even when they play bad, they don't make the key mistakes that end up losing the game in the end. But Texas A&M, that's a credit to their coaching staff. Their program's growing. So could be on the rise. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 2 quarterbacks. Kelly Bryant had a good day, a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown. Trevor Lawrence gets in there. Is there still a controversy?
So this is the issue I have, because you play 2 quarterbacks, you get to a point of in the middle of the season, say Kelly Bryant's having a bad half or a bad game, then you start having the players questioning the coaching staff.
Yeah, for sure.
Saying, oh, if only we had Trevor Lawrence and we would have dominated this game, or if Trevor Lawrence starts playing too much, then they're saying, oh, if only Kelly Bryant would have played a little bit more, we would have beat this team even more. It just, you put too much on the players and the talking behind the scenes, whether it's the parents, whether it's the kids on campus or amongst themselves. I don't know what Kelly Bryant has done not to be the starter.
Yeah,
I mean, every time he goes out there, he plays well. And this isn't a Jalen circumstance where you're saying, okay, Jalen can't pass the football. Jalen can only run. We need to win here to be able to win games. Kelly Bryant goes out there and dominates throwing the football.
12 of 17, 205 and a touchdown.
And then he gives you the dynamic of running the ball as well. And listen, I'm a big fan of this young QB. You know, I love his hair. I love his size. I love his arm. I think he's gonna be something special. But you also have something special right now in Kelly Bryant. I mean, this kid is a winner. I say stick with him. He's done nothing not to be your starter at the end of the day.
So that's coming from a quarterback, but as a tight end, you're in the huddle every single day, in practice. I mean, these are 2 different guys, 2 different leadership styles. I'm sure there's a knowledge gap there as well. Kelly Bryant's been there. Trevor Lawrence is a true freshman. What's it like having to deal with that from the coaching staff, not having one quarterback heading into the thick of the season now?
Yeah, I mean, former quarterback, quarterbacks and route runners, that's a very interpersonal relationship. So I would look to whoever Trevor Lawrence's freshman roommate is. I should suppose that he should get probably about 50 catches this year, versus a veteran guy who's been around working with the offense this whole time and got on a more condensed schedule, hasn't had the reps with everybody, doesn't know the nuances of how they run routes, because everyone runs things a little different. So it just comes down to experience.
No question. And speaking of experience, number 3 ranked team in the nation, Georgia. There was some murmurs about maybe a quarterback controversy. Jake Fromm led the Dogs to an SEC championship just a year ago, into the national championship, which they should have won, but 5-star Justin Fields comes in. The Dogs absolutely hammer South Carolina in Columbia. I don't think there's a QB controversy here, Aaron.
No, there's none. And the big question mark's on the offensive side of the football, but defenses, can they replace not only great players, but great leaders? And that was my big question is, you know, Alabama's going to do it every year. They're going to reload defensively no matter if they get 5 picks in the first draft or first round of the draft, or, 10 picks total, whatever it may be. There's always that next guy up mentality. Could Georgia have that? And they showed it this week that they do. They are next guy up, just as talented, just as hungry. And that was a butt whooping. I was expecting South Carolina, who is a good football team. I think we can all agree South Carolina is a good football team, especially at their home.
Yeah, it's a tough place to play.
Which is a tough place to play. Hot, muggy, crazy fans. I mean, sandstorms going. It's loud. It's intimidating. That offensive line for Georgia dictated the game early, and the defense with the turnovers. I hate being a homer. I know you love being a homer. I hate being a homer. But it's just hard not to say this Georgia team is better than everyone else they're going to face this year.
I'm having a hard time, Austin, dealing with people telling me I'm a homer, right? I went to Georgia, yes, but as I predicted the game last week against South Carolina, I said Georgia's going to blow them out. South Carolina's not that good. There's such thing as a media vortex. Aaron works in the media now, so he was sucked into it. I'm on the outside saying, Aaron, don't listen to what everybody's telling you.
Corporate guy over here.
Corporate guy. I mean, that's what he does. But you mentioned Georgia's depth, right? They lose their left tackle in the first quarter, Andrew Thomas, who is a first-round draft pick, certified, no doubt about it. And who do they bring in? Cade Mays, a 5-star from Tennessee, true freshman, and they're going right behind him. I mean, that's what happens, and that's how you can go into a hostile environment and absolutely beat down a team. Do you think Georgia can even be tested in the SEC East, or are they just miles better than everybody else on their schedule right now?
In the SEC East, I mean, I've become a Georgia guy obviously now, so I'm a big proponent of the Dogs. So I don't watch a whole lot of SEC ball, but it looks like from a talent perspective they had, you guys talked about all the 5-star guys they have. That's a great problem to have. No matter who's behind center, no matter who comes in at offensive tackle, I just think they have too much talent. To get beat.
Way too much talent. And a team that might not have as much talent as expected or thought of after week 1, a team that Georgia will play in Jacksonville. That, of course, is the Florida Gators. They get into the top 25 last week. They're going to play Kentucky at home. Little caveat with this rivalry, I guess you can call it a rivalry. Florida hadn't lost to Kentucky in 31 years, and Kentucky goes into Gainesville at the Swamp and beats them. What happened? That's your boy Dan Mullen down there.
My boy, I was expecting big things from Florida this year, and I still think it's still early on. I think this team has the ability to get going, but you got to be embarrassed. When you lose to Kentucky after beating them for 31 years, you are superior for the majority of the positions. They are a better football team. That's like me going up against you and me trying to get around you on a block. I mean, you're bigger, you're stronger, you're more athletic than me. That shouldn't happen. Kentucky should not beat Florida in Gainesville. It doesn't make sense to me how a team that's superior athletic-wise can lose that kind of game. It's mind-blowing, but listen, Florida, like I've said all along, they're going to build in the right direction. Dan Mullen, everywhere he goes, he has success. He knows how to get quarterback play game going better. He knows how to recruit. Now he's back in Florida. I'm not going to stress too much, even though this is pretty embarrassing for that program. They'll bounce back. They'll be good to go. Like I said, he's too good of a coach not to get them ready for the next week.
Yeah, just some inconsistent years in Gainesville. Obviously, the Jim McElwain era was not as well as they wanted it to be. Coach Muschamp wasn't able to get it going either. But, you know, a loss is a loss in football, and we can all sit here and understand that. That one was a pretty devastating loss to Kentucky, right? Everybody was high on Florida. The Dan Mullen Aaron is here. Austin, you know, you guys just lost to the Eagles a week ago. I don't want to bring up anything bad, but is the best thing to get over a loss just getting back to work, going back to the basics and kind of hammering out what you're there for?
Yeah, I mean, my rookie year, we lost the Super Bowl. So that was hard. I mean, that was a tough one. But, I mean, the best thing you got to have is just perspective, right? The sun will rise tomorrow. You can't live in the past. All you can do is just learn from your mistakes, which are all correctable, and move on. I mean, the bear's not loose. Like, it's fine. Relax. It's still early.
Yeah, no doubt. And the Falcons especially have been consistent over the past 3 to 4 years, and you come from a program like Stanford University, again, model of consistency for recent memory, for sure. What do you think you could attribute that to? Is it the coaching staff? Is it the administration? Is it the group of guys that are in that building?
I would say it's a good component of all those. I mean, the way we recruit, we have to have intelligent players just because on the offensive side of the ball, my college quarterback, Kevin Hogan, would have to call 3 plays in the huddle. I mean, we had a can and we had an alert based off of whatever the look was. So he had to know, okay, I'm killing this versus a 3 technique. We're doing this versus, you know, certain safety rotation. So it just requires very cerebral players. And you pair that with a very smart coaching staff, it allows you to just play chess on the field and allows maybe, you know, less athletic guys to topple the 5-star, you know, pure athletes, you know, the guys that SC will get all the time, versus a guy who got a few offers but is smart and can beat him with technique. And, you know, I mean, it's worked for us. I don't know.
I mean, you speak about Stanford. They're obviously pumping up a bunch of NFL talent, as we have here with Austin. But even at the tight end position, I mean, you guys have to do 2 jobs. You have to run routes, then you have to sit in the line and block as well. And if you look around the NFL, there's been a lot of really good tight ends in the NFL. You got Zach Ertz in Philadelphia, Kobe Fleener, who probably get back onto a roster this year. Yourself, I mean, Kajust was a star on Hard Knocks. Why do you think that is from Stanford in the tight end pipeline?
You just have to learn so much football. I mean, it helps going to a program where when I was there, it was predominantly like Chip Kelly, zone read, or Mike Leach, or at least on the West Coast. So no one even had a tight end, let alone someone who knew how to block in line, in space, block, do pass blocking, and then being able to create separation versus man-to-man coverage just puts you in so many different situations that when you get to the NFL, it's not uncomfortable.
For sure, and you have a great head coach in David Shaw. I mean, I think that's where the consistency kind of starts. It's definitely top down in college football, Aaron, as you know, and you came out early. I mean, I think you were at Stanford for only 3 years, and then you came to the NFL. How did Coach Shaw help you make that decision?
It was something between Coach Shaw and my family. I mean, I was a redshirt sophomore, a guy who never played tight end until college. I redshirted, kind of learned how to play the position, played 25 games, and realized, all right, it's time for me. So it came to a point where I talked about it with my family around bowl game time of the year, and they agreed upon it. And then I talked to Coach Shaw, and to my surprise, he was incredibly supportive and was one of my biggest proponents. So once I got the blessing from my family and my coach, I knew it was time.
Seems like Coach Rick and Coach Shaw kind of cut from the same cloth, and you had a prolific career at Georgia. Did you ever have one of those conversations with Coach Rick about staying or wanting to make sure after, of course, that 2012 SEC championship game? Sorry to bring it up. I mean, you definitely wanted to come back, but Coach Rick's that supportive type as well that's going to give you anything you need.
Yeah, he brought me into his office. I remember it was probably the week after that game, and you're still very emotional from the loss. I mean, we were 4 yards away from going to national championship. And the last thing I want to think about is if I'm staying, if I'm going, and it's a tough thing about not having a bowl game for a while either.
Yeah, for sure.
We talk about after a big loss, what's the best thing to do? Go play another game, start preparing. For us, it was like, man, we got 3 weeks before our next game. This is going to be sitting on my mind. Then I got to make up my decision if I'm going to go to the NFL or stay for my senior year. But he's just a great man just to throw ideas off of. I mean, we sat down for probably 20, 30 minutes, talked about the pros and cons along with my parents of what's the best next step, what's the best for myself, what's best for the university, and really worked it through with me, which was great to have a man who's seen it all. I mean, he's developed great talent. He's been around guys who have been in the same situation as I was, and obviously made a great decision coming back.
No doubt. When I had to make my decision whether to stay, and I'm just kidding, I was only a punter, so there was no decision for me. I was there for 5 great years in Athens, but you're in Atlanta now. Athens right down the street. What's it like living in SEC country? I mean, it looks like the SEC could be dominant again in 2018.
Yeah, it's crazy. People actually care about football out here. It's pretty interesting. I like it. I mean, the fans, they're on another level, something I've never experienced before. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. And speaking of the SEC, it seems like every single week this season, there's going to be big games. Week 3, right around the corner, and we got a huge one. Another big-time game. Top 15 matchup. Number 12, LSU, is going to number 7, Auburn. Auburn's favored in this game, Aaron. LSU coming in hot. A lot of people high on the Baton Rouge Tigers.
I am not sold yet on LSU. I sold on the defense. Joe Burrow is just still not done enough for me. And you want to look at Auburn's defense. I mean, they are loaded. Defensive line to secondary. I mean, this is a very talented group over there. I don't think LSU on the road, hostile environment, we've talked about how tough it is to play at Auburn. I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball. I mean, this could be a single-point digit game for them. I mean, they may get 3, they may get 6, they may get 9. I don't think they're going to get 10+. Auburn's gone against Washington's defense. Not a ton of success, but well enough to win that game. And Stidham played extremely well early in the season. I think Auburn beats them, and I think they beat them by 10 to 14 points.
All right, so Aaron, high on the Auburn Tigers. What do you think the message is for a team like LSU? I know when I was in the NFL, some of our biggest games in the most hostile environments, that Saturday night meeting, the coach would say, block, tackle, and don't turn the ball over, go to bed. I mean, sometimes it is that simple, especially when you are heading to a place like Jordan-Hare where it's just going to be so loud and you have to be on top of your P's and Q's, so to say. Do you like LSU in this matchup, or do you think Auburn's just got too many weapons, offensive, defense?
There are too many LSU guys in the locker room. I'm very obligated to be a Tiger fan.
There you go. So Austin likes LSU. I'm with you, though, Aaron. I like Auburn here. You mentioned the defense. I mean, LSU was able to force Miami into so many turnovers. That's not going to happen Saturday. It's going to be a 4-quarter game, and you've been to Jordan-Hare. You mentioned you're not really the biggest fan of the Auburn Tigers, but you're picking them, and you're picking them in a big way. Another top 15 matchup in week 3, number 4 Ohio State without Urban Meyer once again is going to Dallas to take on the number 15 ranked TCU Horned Frogs. Ohio State, double-digit favorite. I mean, they're putting up huge numbers. Dwayne Haskins is a stud. Any way TCU can maybe stall this undefeated season so far?
We don't know much about either of these teams.
Yeah.
I mean, they're ranked high. They both look great their first 2 games, but it's been cupcake games so far. So finally, Ohio State will play someone good. Finally, TCU will play someone good. I don't think TCU has the manpower to go in head-to-head against Ohio State, even at home.
Even without Urban Meyer.
Even without Urban Meyer. I mean, this team has proven these past 2 weeks, even against lesser opponents, they've done what they need to do, going out and shutting teams down offensively, defensively. Ohio State, it's Alabama, it's Georgia, it's Clemson, it's Ohio State, and maybe you can throw Wisconsin in there with teams where you can look at and just say, I don't know if they have a weakness. You know, maybe one position or 2 positions, but overall, that's a really good football team. They should go and beat TCU. I still think they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder without having Urban there, and I think they're excited. So I got Ohio State winning this game and winning it big.
Austin, when you're at a school like Stanford, and you guys, I mean, I don't want to call you giant killers because certainly you've proven yourselves on the big-time college football stage. How do you prepare for a game against maybe one of the best 4 schools in America?
Just have to trust your training. That's really what it comes down to. If you try to hype it up too much, you'll get stage fright before you even get there. All you can do is trust the plan that your coaches put together, trust the guys you're in the huddle with, and the beauty of college football is no one really knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So everybody can talk, the media can be as crazy as they want to, but at the end of the day, you got to line up.
At the end of the day, is TCU going to beat Ohio State or?
I love the underdog here.
Okay.
That's what college football is about.
There you go. I like that. I got to be again with you though, Aaron. Ohio State too deep. I mean, even if Dwayne Haskins for some reason isn't getting it going, they put Tate Martell in. And he's driving the offense up and down the field too. The Ohio State defense is very opportunistic. Turnovers, return for pick sixes. They're very, very good, and I don't think the Dallas atmosphere will be too big for them. A game that we were talking about before the show, number 1 Alabama going to Ole Miss in Oxford, over under 71 points. These 2 teams can score with anybody. Ole Miss doesn't seem like they can stop anything though. Is Bama just going to roll again?
Yes, and the fact that Alabama's offense should score 50-plus points this game, and they may have to because Ole Miss may score 40 points. I mean, this should be over under 80 in my opinion. I mean, this is going to be fun. Like, of all the games to watch this weekend, really excited for obviously LSU, Auburn, but I'm really excited to see this game Saturday night. Alabama, Ole Miss, Jordan Ta'amu. He's big, he's strong, he's accurate. I mean, he dominated the end of last season. A.J. Brown on the outside. They have a ton of other talented receivers as well. Yes, Alabama's good. There are some question marks on the secondary. Can they match up with 3 or 4 really good receivers plus a very talented quarterback? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for that defense, but Ole Miss, man, they can't play defense. And you look
There's
at Alabama's offense
Yeah.
with Tua back out there, quarterback, and all the receivers, running backs they have. Literally, this could be 90-plus points in this game. I mean, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fireworks.
It's going to be very fun, that's for sure. We talked about overreactions. We're only into week 2 of the college football season. Is there any way that Alabama and Coach Saban and Tua, what they've been able to do through 2 weeks, are they overrated at all, or are they really a force to be reckoned with again?
I think they're definitely a force to be reckoned with. Everything they've done, everything they've put on tape shows that they are the most dominant team in the country at every single position.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Besides kicker, though.
Yeah. I mean,
The
okay,
kicker,
it's
the
always-
kicking
it's
game, I'll
always
let you break that
suspect over
down.
there.
I can
The
break it
kicking
down
game
for
is
you.
rough.
My man's not having the best start to the season
No.
at all. And if you are any way familiar with Alabama fans, they're not having it. I said it last week. If you can get this game down to the 4th quarter into a kicking battle, you have a leg up. Literally and
a leg up
figuratively
on this.
against Alabama. So if it's like 74-72, like a basketball
I'm
game,
taking Ole Miss.
take Ole
I'm
Miss.
taking Ole
take
Miss on
Ole
that
Miss.
one.
But I'll pick Alabama until they prove me wrong, and it doesn't seem like that's going to happen anytime soon. Another game is number 22 USC, who Stanford just beat last week. They're heading into Texas, right, in Austin. Texas is favored here, and they've lost the game as well. USC, I mean, do I even have to ask you who you're going to pick here?
I'm going for USC. I'm going to go for the Pac-12. You got to. I mean, the most iconic college football game arguably ever was Vince Young and Longhorns against Reggie and the boys down at SC. So being a West Coast guy, I got to go with my Pac-12 team. Got to make the conference look decent.
You think USC can step up and come back after a loss
I
last
think JT
week?
Daniels can step up. I think he learned a lot his first game on the road. Big game, did not play really well versus Stanford. And Texas right now, people ask me, like, what's wrong with Texas? Why can't Texas get top talent? Why can't they get great leadership, whether it's coaching or players? It's mind-blowing to me. When I think of Texas, I think of the Rose Bowl. I think of Vince Young.
Yeah.
I think of championships. And they're so far removed from that right now. They lose this game and go 1-2. I mean, they lost to Maryland, and we know everything that's going on at Maryland. They play a very tight game last week versus Tulsa, a Tulsa team that only had 3 wins last season. And then you look at their schedule the next few weeks. They play TCU, and then they play Oklahoma in 3 weeks. I mean, this team has a tough road ahead. They have to win this game.
Yeah,
This is desperate mode for Texas, in my opinion. But I got USC. I think Texas has looked awful these first 2 weeks. I think USC with JT Daniels, I think he's super talented quarterback. I think like I said, he's going to learn from his mistakes he made last week for Stanford. He's going to have a better game. In Texas, they just don't have their mojo. It's what is Texas football? They're not intimidating. They're not scary. Teams aren't afraid to play that brand anymore.
Well, I don't think Texas is afraid to play USC. USC didn't even score a touchdown last week. I mean, Stanford beat them 17-3. JT Daniels obviously had his issues, but look, put some points on the board, then come talk to me. He's going into another hostile environment in Austin. I'm taking the Longhorns here, all right? So both y'all will be wrong. I'll be right. See you next week, Aaron, when Texas is the winner of this game. One more game I'm going to ask you about, and it's not this week, it's next week when the top 10 Stanford Cardinal go to Oregon. Any stories about Autzen Stadium? Because that place is one of the most hostile environments in college football.
I just remember the fans getting a little crazy, saying some, not so friendly stuff I can say on camera, and using some substances I cannot speak about on camera. But it's always very interesting when you go to Autzen. I mean, it's such a beautiful campus around and whatnot, and then once you go inside, all that beauty turns into such nastiness. It's awesome, though. There's no better place to play just to feel that rush of a true crowd.
Absolutely. And you look at a team with KJ Costello and Bryce Love. I mean, is there any way that they lose to Oregon, or are they going to go in there and take care of business?
It's like any rivalry game, right? It doesn't matter what the records are. It's essentially 0-0. I mean, if any team wins this one game, it will solidify their season. I mean, it's huge for both programs. So any rivalry game, it's essentially 0-0 in my mind.
No doubt, rivalry game victories are certainly very, very beneficial for a college football season. I believe that, and that leads us to our Believe It segment. This is Believe It, where we state what we believe to be true in college football. Believe It is sponsored by Geico. You won't believe how easy it is to save money with Geico. Geico makes it easy to switch and save hundreds on car insurance. You can believe that. All right, what do I believe in college football right now? I believe that Arizona State's in for a long year. I mean, look, pump the brakes. Herm Edwards didn't even know what the mascot it was at Arizona State when he was hired. He didn't even believe the jersey he was holding was the actual jersey that they played with on the field. There's a learning curve here, Aaron, and yes, they beat number 15 Michigan State. You mentioned Michigan State, not maybe as good as some people expected. They're going to lose to San Diego State this week. They're in for a long season in Tempe.
I believe, and we talked about it earlier, I believe that Ole Miss is going to make this one heck of a football game.
Okay.
I mean, this is going to be exciting. Fireworks, touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. Jordan Ta'amu is going to have a really good day versus very tough Alabama defense. He's going to solidify himself as one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in a very, very heavy quarterback league in the SEC.
Austin, what do you believe in college football?
I believe that Stanford will win the Pac-12 once again.
All right. Stanford Cardinal going to be in the Pac-12 championship once again, according to Atlanta Falcons tight end Austin Hooper. Thanks for tuning in to CampusLore Live. And once again, a huge thanks to the College Football Hall of Fame right here in Atlanta, Georgia, for being our awesome host. If you're in Atlanta, be sure to come here. This is the epicenter of college football, and you will not want to miss out. We'll see you next week.